Hello, my name is Yashi. So today I'm here with Melanie Bentley with me, who is a primary teacher and also an Osher educator. So thank you so much, Melanie, for taking your time and being a part of this interview. I really appreciate it, and please feel free to take your time and answer all these questions, and we can go through them in a comfortable pace. So my first question for today is using assessment data to plan student learning and also sequencing lessons and adjusting our teaching across a unit when teaching. So could I get an answer for that, please?
We pre-test the children. So if we're doing a unit on number, we do a pre-test of where they're at. So we would look at what we're learning for the whole term, sit down and do a pre-test and gauge where the children are at. Once we've gauged that, then we look at maybe grouping the children as to which children are very similar, where gaps are, and plan from there. So we always observe and then plan from there again. Observe and then plan and then evaluate again and see if they've met the requirements.
All right. So my second question is gonna be related to interpreting learning and identifying misconceptions. So how do you interpret assessment evidence to identify patterns in student progress? So such as misconceptions or levels of readiness or specific learning needs, and how does that influence your teaching?
Well, I found if you give children smaller tasks rather than a big task that's going to take them, say, an hour, break it up into smaller tasks. That way they can stay on task. And if you're trying to build on something, do one bit first together so everyone has the idea and then move forward rather than, we're doing a whole lesson on persuasive writing and break it up and let's do an introduction. Let's do the first bit together and then work on the next bit together and then let them go for the last bit. Or if they're confident, let them go. We can always come back and reassess, or they can tell me how they've gone, or they can share what they've written with other children so we can all learn together.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so my third question is gonna be how to apply multi-tiered system of supports in our classrooms. So particularly, how do you make sure that strong tier 1 instruction and decide when students need additional tier 2 or tier 3 support?
Students would be on a tier system. A lot of the children would have additional needs if they're on a tier system. So most children will be on tier 1.
Mm-hmm.
If a child has an additional need, they'll go to tier 2 and tier 3, where they would need support as a small group or as a pair or individual, or they may leave the space and work with somebody else and then come back. So a lot of one-on-one or small group, some parent support too. The parents will be there supporting you as well. Mm-hmm. So the parent would understand where you're at and they might be able to help you. And also ask for support. Don't think you can do it all because you're watching a whole group of children. You can't just be watching everybody. You need to watch everyone, of course. Mm-hmm. But 2 children may need extra support, so maybe they could go with the teacher aide or something like that. Or someone even of a higher standard, or they know what's happening. They could always teach the students that don't understand, like peer tutoring. That works really well for that. And I would always communicate with parents too if they're needing support.
Yep. All right, so our next topic is gonna be about explicit instruction. So how do you use explicit instruction and modeling when introducing new concepts to make sure that students understand the learning intentions and also the expectations?
We need to be very clear and concise and give the children time to ask any questions. If you've given an instruction that's to do something or to make something, you need to make sure they understand it. So maybe get them to repeat it back to you and say, okay, so what's step 1? Tell me. Get them to tell you. And then go, right, what's step 2? So make it short, clear, and also give them time to think as well and to process. If you're finding they're not working on the task properly, go back and talk about the instructions again. What is the intention? What are the expectations? Try again. See if that helps. Sometimes also something written down that they could look at too. Like a visual guide may help too.
Yeah. Alright, so I'm gonna move on to scaffolding and cognitive load. So this question is gonna be how scaffold learning to manage task complexity and how you managing cognitive load while supporting students at different levels and gradually building their independence.
So it's important if you're going to teach something new, you don't want to overload them and overwhelm them with too much information. As before I said, always break up to smaller tasks. So if you're learning a new instrument or things like that, you'd only do one note at a time, like one chord. Work on that, master that before you move on. There's no point moving on if you haven't got the basics. Always take your time. You could also do a lot of visual prompts to help and guide, and also get them to show you what they can do first too before you move on.
Yep. Let's get to my question number 6 about how we integrate literacy and numeracy. So how do you think we can intentionally embed like literacy and numeracy skills across our teaching and assessment to support a diverse range of learners?
So you can include it everywhere. So if you're doing science, you can always incorporate maths and writing into that. Lots of hands-on. Children love to be hands-on. And sometimes it might not be a written way of literacy or numeracy, but they could be verbally talking about numbers or verbally talking about the words. Like that's words, literacy. Yeah. Talking about what they're making, what the hypothesis was, or what's the outcome. And also doing or showing it using visual documentation. So they might be able to show you something rather than write it down physically. They can also just talk about it too. If they've done something, they can always just verbally tell you about what they've done.
Yep. Alrighty. So let's move on to assessment and feedback. So my next question is, how do you use different assessment strategies and provide feedback that supports students' learning and improvement?
So end of term, you could do verbal testing, you could do written testing, you could do some hands-on testing. So a lot of children, or some children actually, prefer to do a verbal testing. So if you're trying to show that they could work out addition, instead of writing it down, they might be able to show you with like some blocks or some counters or things like that. They can talk through the process. It may not be written down, but they know the process. So multiple different ways that they can show you at the end of a topic or a task, give them a chance to show what they can do. They might vary from child to child. So some children might just do a test on a piece of paper. They're happy with that. Other children need to do a verbal, stand in front of the class or stand in front of just me. We could talk it through. That way I can gauge if they can understand it.
Yeah.
And then I'd also feed that back to parents too. If the child is struggling,
that's very
or if I've noticed there's a gap in their learning or they need more support, we need to communicate with parents. That's important. Parents need to be aware.
Yes. So let's get to designing our lessons to manage the cognitive load. So how do you think designing learning experiences and also assessment tasks to manage the cognitive load and connect new learning to the existing knowledge?
So you need to look at their prior learning. What have they learned before or what has been done before? There's no point doing a new task unless you can link it somehow to what they've learned, except for in prep. You could try a task. If it's not working, why? Do they not have the phonological awareness? Do they not have basic number knowledge? Why can't they do it? Is there more going on? So you need to look at things like that and looking and learning about how they learn best. Because some children, like you keep talking about, is the hands-on. They need to touch or feel things to understand it. Then if you're moving on from that, go, oh, do you remember when we did that? How we had the blocks out, we did this. Now we're moving on, we're going to do this with that.
Exactly.
So always go back to what they know and then move forward again. And then go back again and then move on.
That makes a lot of sense, yes. So let's move on to progression of learning. So how does your teaching and assessment approach modify as students move from being beginners to like more confident and independent learners?
Lots of modelling and guidance. So you wouldn't give students a big giant task and go, here, do it. You would need to model it first, show them what to do, show them a couple of examples, and say, if you're confident enough, move away and have a try yourself. And if you're not, stay here and we can do some more together, and keep working until they're ready to be independent. And if that doesn't happen, that's okay too. Just have to keep going and going until they've grasped it. And give them time to process too. It's important that they have time to process what they're doing.
Yep. All right. So now my question 10 is related to supporting diverse learners. So as a teacher, how can we make sure that our teaching is very responsive to students who require additional or intensive support?
So if students need additional support, they'd have an IEP or a report we've worked through. So we would work through if they need support with a certain task. We might get a teacher aid in, and they could also guide and support. We also would break down the tasks into smaller tasks, so just one little bit at a time. So rather than giving them a whole piece of paper, say, here, do all these tasks. How about I give you 2 or 3? Go work on the 2 or 3. Let's check your knowledge, let's check your understanding, then we can move on. There's no point if they can't, because they're just going to get overwhelmed, and then more barriers will come up, and then it won't happen. And then their learning becomes, they're going to be disengaged.
Yes, sure.
So if the child is involved and engaged, they're going to be learning. So if you need help, you need to ask for some help. And call for teacher aides or work with other staff members so you can break up some of the children who need help, or those that are moving faster. Give them some harder things to work on.
Yes. So next we are going to talk about moderation. So in moderation, so how do you ensure that our assessment judgments are consistent and aligned with standards in this moderation process, like moderation practices?
Well, to be fair, you need to have someone else look at how you're marking, because you could be marking very unfairly or inconsistently. And if someone else checks over it and goes, you know what, I agree with you, that's a good sign. But if someone disagrees with you, why? Why did you not mark it like that? Or why did you see something else in the work?
Yeah.
So you both have a point of view, very respectful, and you need to come to a conclusion as to where the child is at. And there'll be a bit of a discussion back and forth, and then all of a sudden you'll work out that, the student is here. You could be right, you could be wrong, and that's okay. It's all part of learning, but you want to be fair and consistent across the board.
Yes, that's very true. So let's move on to how we can evaluate the impact. So finally, how do you evaluate the impact of your teaching on how students learn and use this to improve your teaching practice?
You wouldn't wait till the end of the term to change your method or your ideas. You can change on the spot. So if you find that children aren't learning or they're not engaged, you need to change it quickly and work out how to change it quickly. Don't wait till the end of the lesson and go, oh, that didn't work. All right, well, you could have, but if you're thinking on your feet, you're constantly observing children. Are they engaged? Yes. All right, it's working. If you've got 3 or 4 that aren't engaged, why? Something's not working for them, so you need to get them engaged. So you need to change paths straight away. You can't wait, because if you keep waiting, they're not learning.
Yeah.
And so they're disengaged, they don't want to be there. Learning goes behind. But if they're engaged, you've got them. So get them engaged. Change as you need to. So modify the activity to suit.
Yes, that's great. Yes, so these are all for today, my interview questions. So thank you so much again, Mel, for joining my interview today. I really appreciate it. And this will only be used for research purposes and university purposes. So, yep, that's it.
Thank you
So much.